Overnight, Taiwan's defense ministry announcing it detected 11 Chinese military aircraft flying near the island, in addition to Chinese warships. Yesterday, I spoke to Taiwan's president at the Dealbook Summit.
Well, I think the Chinese leadership at this juncture is overwhelmed by its internal challenges. And my thought is that perhaps this is not a time for them to consider a major invasion of Taiwan.
Because of the economic challenges in China right now?
No, largely because the internal economic and financial as well as political challenges, but also the international community has made it loud and clear that war is not an option, and peace and stability serves everybody's interests.
Joining us now, Anna Ashton, Eurasia Group's Director of China Corporate Affairs and U.S. China. And at the time of the meeting that we saw a couple weeks back between the presidents of both countries, that was the big question, the economic situation that we see in China. Does that make them more likely or less likely to be aggressive on I don't know, in the South China Sea with Taiwan and all the other things that we see China doing for the past couple of years, more or less? The president of Taiwan seems to think less.
It's complicated. How's that for an answer?
Yeah, everything.
You know, I think on the one hand, the economic situation makes China's leadership more interested in calming its foreign relationships, and that's a part of why we saw the meeting between Xi Jinping and Joe Biden. That's why they are inviting delegations pretty regularly from European countries and other major trading partners. They are trying to manage things that they can manage so that they're not in the way of the steps that they need to take at home, so that they can really focus on challenges domestically. On the other hand, it's important to remember that from Beijing's perspective, the South China Sea areas where they are acting aggressively and Taiwan are not foreign issues. They are domestic issues. And so the rules are a little bit different. You know, the calculations are different. And I think if we had seen a different outcome from the opposition parties in Taiwan trying to form a joint ticket, we might see a slightly less aggressive Beijing right now. But the way that things have shaken out, it looks more likely than not that William Lai, the current vice president, will win the January election. He's the worst possible option from their perspective because he's the most forward-leaning on formal independence for Taiwan. And so, you know, we should expect them to be doing things that are, you know, engaged in show of force activities, basically, from now until the election, and then should he win between the election and inauguration in May.
So they even view that as almost a local issue, is what you're saying. So they might be less aggressive in other parts of the world, but they figure that, I don't know, that's their own territory. So when you watched that meeting between President Biden and President Xi, were you surprised at all at how, I don't know, somewhat conciliatory President Xi was, or were you expecting that? And did he mean it?
I do think that he meant it. Of course, you know, I can't read his mind, but I think that there's every reason for China to want to have a stable relationship with the United States, and really no reason to want otherwise. Just because we have different strategic interests doesn't mean it serves their interests to be, you know, on our bad side right now. So I do think that it was sincere. I do think that Xi Jinping would like to be able to establish a calmer relationship, and one where there are avenues for cooperation, and one where the United States is dissuaded from moving forward even more aggressively with military changes in the South China Sea, in the region, with alliance building and with restrictions on China's ability to access technology. That being said, you know, I don't think that this meeting fundamentally changed the strategic nature of each side's calculations about the other. I think that there's deep distrust, and there's going to continue to be deep distrust. And there are fundamentally different interests, which are going to be challenging going forward.
Yeah, and all the things that the China hawks are worried about, those are still, if they were pursuing those ends prior to that meeting, nothing changed. I mean, 5 years from now, they still, if you believe that they want to change the world order and supplant the United States at the top of the world order, that's still, this might be a pause, but that's still in their long-term plans, wouldn't you think?
Right. If you believe that, then yeah, there's no reason to believe that their long-term plans have changed.
I
don't think that that's necessarily what they want.
We're not patsies, are we? I mean, he didn't say all those things and then immediately leave and just start laughing about putting one over on us. President Xi, I'm talking about.
Oh, not at all. I think I also think that President Biden wasn't particularly accommodating. I think that there was careful planning for this meeting, and what came out of the meeting was the result of intense negotiations, and it was what they could move forward on right now. Some of it important for the United States, like the fentanyl agreement. But I think that Xi realizes that foreign investment is as important as ever, if not more important than ever, and he wants to assuage the foreign business community, including U.S. businesses. He wants this relationship back on track.